Okay, so welcome officially, and hello to people online who I think are inside those cameras there. That's how I think about it. We've got 60 minutes. I think in programming terms, there is an AI session going on elsewhere. So, you know, that's always a tough thing to be up against. Although I noticed in the program there was a typo. So I think the AI session was entitled Building a Consensus on the Responsible Use of A. So they'll be discussing the use of that letter and how you can do it responsibly. If that's the actual session, I think that would be quite intriguing, wouldn't it? Anyway, so to begin with, because otherwise we're going to run out of time, we're starting with the Ethical EdTech Award. So we'll play out that video and then I'll invite you guys up.
The work that we've done with Microsoft Translate has been revolutionary in supporting 1,000 ESOL students.
What happens is they are all confused by instructions, they're not sure what's going on, they're nervous. Some of them have literally been in the country for 3 months. They find the enrolment process really difficult because they don't really have anybody to communicate with effectively.
So what we do is we use PowerPoint Live. It then goes onto their phone and they can choose their own language. And as I'm speaking, or the teacher's speaking, it's transcribing live in their language on their screen. And so instantaneously and simultaneously, they're all being given the same instruction. Our job is to help them not just develop their English language skills, but to develop as a rounded individual who can find their place in our communities, who can work, who can raise their children, who can navigate life in modern Britain, really.
It's critical that all of our students are taught about fundamental British values, prevent, equality and diversity, safeguarding. In order to teach them in English, we would have to wait a considerable amount of time before we could deliver that and they understand. So using tools such as this, we can deliver this literally on day one if we wanted to.
They are strong individuals who can overcome anything. And using technology, it allows me to connect with them in a deeper way.
We're not just in the business of training them in English language skills. We're in the business of helping them create new lives, particularly when you consider the lives that they may have fled from, the persecution, the challenges, the trauma that they've faced. Our job is to make sure their life in the future can look very different from the life they left.
Brilliant, thank you. Would you like to come up, Deb and Tina? Take a seat. Okay. So, this is a callback to last night, by the way. I'm wearing that deliberately. You said something interesting to me last night when we were on the same table, which was that the technology's been available for quite a long time, and that you were simply kind of getting on and using it, which I think is actually quite a powerful thing because it's about the practice of using it rather than necessarily, reaching out for a super shiny thing, if you like.
Yeah.
How have you found how's the adoption of that gone?
So first of all, we're using AI in tools such as Microsoft Translate, PowerPoint Live, Immersive Reader, all of those tools. And whole college is about supporting every single student. And if you've come from a country and you've had to flee that country for whatever reason, and you could be a lawyer, a nurse, a teacher, but you don't speak the language, many people are quite patronising to those people in ways that they don't really realise. So we've taught all of our customer services people how to use Microsoft Translate and those tools. We've given them tablets so that if any student is struggling navigating the college or the enrolment process, they can use these tools to communicate. The feedback from the students, and that's what matters, is incredible. And the adoption by the staff, it's fab so far. Yeah, they're all engaging with it and exploring and finding out new things and sharing. So that's what we're all about, really, helping those students come to college and learn English so that they can crack on and go and do what they do best.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well, because you're not doing this instead of supporting English language skills.
No.
So this is like you're using the technology to create a kind of fair start for people who are arriving and have to really hit the ground running.
Yeah, so for us, we have learners from pre-entry right through to level 2, but the pre-entry and the level 1 learners, it's invaluable that we teach them about safeguarding, the different cultures in England, how to keep themselves safe. And when they have such limited English, you can only dilute so much without losing the meaning. So it's imperative that we use this tool to get those messages across and to get that understanding to them. The English, learning English, is a separate entity. This is keeping themselves safe and actually giving them the tools to be able to live within the city and in the country.
Imagine being a teacher in a room with 20-odd students, and those 20-odd students, there's about 14 different languages. And you're trying to communicate, you're trying to enrol them or induct them, or just set up the lesson. This is the intention of the lesson. This is what we're expecting of you today. It's not the teaching the English, it's just saying today we're going to learn about transport and navigating a city. This is what will happen. Then we'll do some role play. Then we'll do a quiz. And they go, okay, right, yeah. We did have a student who was really struggling. I'm going to let Tina tell you about this because Tina runs this department. You want to tell them about Ali?
Yeah, so we had a student who'd been with us the previous year and his behaviour was very erratic. We introduced the Translate tool, etc., and it became apparent very quickly that he was actually illiterate in his own language. So he felt that he couldn't learn English either, and he couldn't articulate what he actually wanted to speak. Working with him, we've been able to put special measures in place and put additional support in place for him this year, and he's absolutely thrived now. But he'd left his country of Egypt, and it took him 3 years to get to the UK, and he was 13 when he left, so he'd not been in school the majority of his life, and he was absolutely overwhelmed this year that he's actually achieved his first ever qualification.
He's participating in extracurricular stuff now and running little clubs and things like that. I mean, what a transformation. That's why I consider using the right technology for the right reason at the right time. And like I said, this is not new tech. Just to make this absolutely clear, when we're in front of the students, we will put PowerPoint Live on, and the students will have a device. We'll put the QR code up. They all scan the QR code, choose their language, and we are speaking, and it is translating into up to 60 languages, any of those languages right there and then.
Okay.
That's easy stuff, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's just great use of the technology, and from my perspective, thinking about my own institution, I think perhaps we're not always entirely honest about the language situation that's in front of us. So I think one of the really powerful things about you winning this award is that you as an institution, the work that you're doing, you're just being utterly honest about actually the challenges that your learners face. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to clicker my way along to, I wasn't expecting that one to be the next one, but it is the next one. So we'll watch this video.
Remote labs are a way of connecting students to equipment in real time using just a web browser. The experiments are here on campus, turning it into a great science museum feel, and for the students, they can explore in their own time. Traditional laboratory timetables are normally really, really strict and they're really, really constrained, whereas with remote labs, it doesn't matter if you've got work commitments or caring commitments because they're on 24/7. Remote labs are highly cost effective because we reduce the amount of floor space we need. We use low value foyer space to replace, for every square meter of foyer space, 150 square meters of teaching lab space, and that's a huge cost saving. The impact that remote laboratories have had on teaching has been huge. We've increased the amount of practical work on our courses by a factor of 10 or 20.
remote labs means that we can use the same hardware and redesign the user interface and provide that to third-year undergraduates in engineering, for example, whilst using the same hardware with secondary school students by updating and redesigning user interfaces.
The remote labs were created using a variety of innovative processes, including 3D printing, laser cutting, and CNC machining, using widely available materials. We fully design each experiment using CAD software and an iterative process that includes a customer. This minimises waste and increases the speed in which a working prototype can be constructed.
This has been a big project that encompasses teams from the technicians all the way through to the academic staff that work on the courses themselves, with everybody coming together. Remote labs are open source because we believe that everybody should be able to customize their education to suit their own individual circumstances and needs. And we want what we're doing to be able to help other people out and join us and share the benefits that we're already seeing.
Brilliant. Come on up. So this is Tim and Andrew from Edinburgh. It's turned into like a daytime TV format, hasn't it?
Is this where you get to be Jeremy Kyle?
I hope not. I might am. So obviously you've explained that there. We could see why you're worthy winners and pretty nifty on the dance floor as well. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it. One of the things I'm interested in, because I think one of the nice things about what you've done there is that it not only is it helping more students engage with labs, but you've also somehow made the practice of lab more visible to people in the university by putting that in the reception. I mean, how's the response to that been? Do you think that's helped people kind of tune into what the hell goes on in these buildings?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the key things about us as humans is our emotional response to what happens. You know, we were talking earlier on about, the keynote. You might not remember what was said, but you remember how you felt about it. And it's often, I think, the same with many aspects of the university experience. So if you can walk into an environment, maybe you're just visiting and you just see something and it's like, oh, this feels like a really cool science museum, or you suddenly see something and you're intrigued and you're thinking about it, then we've captured your attention and off we go. And the fact that they look so good is down to this guy.
Okay.
So that's Andrew's done all the design and the aesthetics. So kind of, you get him in the door, then we bait and switch and get into some education.
I guess that's a good way around. So this was also another thing that sort of intrigued me, because I guess there's a version of this project where you do it all virtually, but you've gone down this kind of hybrid kind of, it's distant but physical, but it's kind of a mashup of all of these things. I mean, tell me about that, that choice to build physical mini experiments and how that went, because it seems like quite a challenging thing to do.
Yes. The benefit of having a real piece of hardware over a simulation is that the real hardware has its own characteristics that you just can't simulate in. So the wooden hexagon type boxes you saw there, we had an original piece of equipment that we've refined that had its problems that real equipment has. So we had to build that into the factors, and actually it's become quite a beneficial third-year course because it has things like heat build-up and heat soak and friction that all comes back into it, that you could throw a first-year student at it, they might not get it. The results wouldn't be there because it's a real piece of kit and we're not simulating any results. So the fact that it is a real piece of hardware that the students interact with, I think that's massively beneficial.
It's also quite smart because it means if it doesn't go quite right, you can say that's a feature.
Yeah, not a fault.
Yeah, exactly, but I
yeah.
guess that's like a simulation of the real world in that sense. But yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things in the video that perhaps people might miss is the fact, I think you've kind of open sourced some of these designs and you've published research and all the rest of it. So, I mean, you're hoping that people will pick this up and use it elsewhere. You're not keeping it to yourself.
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, I'd really, really, really like to see us be able to use the privilege that we have to be in well-funded Northern Hemisphere educational environments to pick up on the message that the UN recently received from the Special Rapporteur on Digital or on Access to Education, where it's basically saying a free and open public digital infrastructure is a human right.
Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah.
anytime you're paying for education, it's either not worth having because it doesn't do anything useful, or you're contributing to inequality in the world.
Yeah.
And that's a really challenging thing to deal with when you're used to throwing money at a problem.
No, I think it's really important because you come from an affluent institution.
Yeah.
So you're taking that road. It allows you to experiment, lead on this, but it's openly available for people to build that stuff for themselves.
Absolutely, and pure self-interest as well. I mean, there's no way that you would do anything fully altruistically if you were thinking about the sustainability piece around it. You know, if we can get some more traction here with a wider contributions from people, I'm expecting to see stuff that I never expected. I'm expecting other people to benefit from me having started this project, brought the team on board, and sort of expanding that out. So, you know, I'm expecting to benefit from being open source as well. It's not purely altruistic, if you know what I mean.
I think that's a reflection of the sort of philosophy of engineering and science as well,
Yeah.
which sometimes people don't realise. You know, I come from a creative arts background. We're pretty cagey about that stuff. So it's really great to see you doing that way. Thanks, guys. Brilliant.
Lovely. Thanks, Raj.
Okay. Our next one, and now I've learnt the system, I can see what the next slide is here, so you'd think I'd know how to do this by now. So the next one is our individual winner, who's Johnny Lee, so we'll watch Johnny's video.
Hello everyone, I'm Johnny, learning technologist and UX/UI design lecturer from Ravensbourne University, London. I'm going to talk about how I use LinkedIn Learning to enhance students' experience and their learning outcome in my institution. To begin with, in a regular meeting with Pro-Vice Chancellor, Director of Learning Teaching, and academic heads, we identified the pain points, what resources are needed to be ready to support academics and students to use LinkedIn Learning. In the meeting, we also explored the benefits of LinkedIn Learning and came up with a plan with defined metrics for success. Then we piloted LinkedIn Learning in different schools and with different user cases. It includes different timings, different uses of LinkedIn Learning. For example, in some cases, LinkedIn Learning is used to prepare students for accreditation. Then we invited the academics and the learning technologists to share and showcase different practices and discuss the challenges and the best way to move forward. We also invited LinkedIn Learning to come to our campus and introduce their service offerings, for example, the content mapping services, and talk about how it helped academics save time in content sourcing. Then we ensure we frame students' expectations in early stage. We also make sure we well distinguish what knowledge and skills to be best learned by LinkedIn Learning. We ensure LinkedIn Learning is well integrated in the VLE so that students can access LinkedIn Learning without leaving the VLE. With all the initiatives, we can see there is a surge in the activation rate compared to 2 years ago, and we can also see a wider offerings are made by different learning paths customized by our academia.
Lovely. Thank you. Hi there. Come sit down. Take a seat.
Oh.
It's probably more like Blue Peter, isn't it, than daytime television, really. Okay, brilliant. Now, I particularly like this award because I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about, especially post-COVID, you know, digital education, digital learning, becoming more central in institutions and, you know, better supported and part of strategies, whereas it used to just be something on the side. But having said that, there's still lots and lots of people who are kind of in the thick of it, doing good work, supporting people, you know, on a very kind of personal kind of basis. And that's why I really like this award, because it celebrates your kind of individual, the quality of your individual work. And one of the things I wanted to highlight, I will ask you a question in a second, honestly. One of the things I wanted to highlight is Ravensbourne's quite a small institution, isn't it? I mean, roughly how many students do you know?
I guess we are reaching 5,000 students this year.
Okay.
And it is still very tiny compared to other higher education institutions in UK.
And how many people would be in sort of roles like yours?
There are only 2 learning technologists.
There you go, you see. So and that's a big contrast to perhaps some other institutions that we'd know, and certainly my institution, where we've probably got 30 people in roles like that. And so I think, again, that highlights how important your work is, because you have to pick something that is going to have a massive impact, even though there's only 2 of you to do it. So how have you found that? How have you found sort of promoting these kind of digital forms of education when there's only you and one other person?
I think it's an exciting opportunity, because being a small institution means I have close relationship with academics, and we have huge flexibility to promote something we believe that genuinely improve student experience. And I would say that's why I'm very thankful, and I'm really happy to be in Ravensbourne, because I have the opportunity to collaborate closely with academics. And also academics understand the limitation of the resources, and they try their best to collaborate with us to bring the best student experience. This is something I really enjoy about being in Ravensbourne.
Sounds really nice.
It is.
I mean, if academics understand the limits of the resources, you're definitely winning at that level. So with this particular work, what was the bit that was the trickiest? Because you've covered a lot of bases there in terms of sort of promoting it, embedding it, and getting the adoption. What was the hardest part of it?
I think the hardest part is engaging every single academic, because our academics, there are many sessionals, because we are a creative arts institution. So I would say I would need to initiate a professional dialogue in the whole institution, and then to help those maybe sessional academics through the course leaders or through full-time staff, so that the influence can reach every single corner of the institution.
And you managed to do that?
I'm trying my best.
Because I think if you've got, it's obviously not unusual to have hourly paid lecturers or sessional academics, and they're not going to be paid for their CPD, staff development time, and all the rest of it. So the only way that you can successfully embed work like that is to become everybody's best friend. Is that your approach?
I'm trying to. I hope they like it.
Yeah, no, but in a way, I'm just sort of acknowledging that it's one thing to talk about LinkedIn Learning, but that the real work of it is creating those connections with all of those staff, isn't it? And just trying to find the opportunity to have that conversation.
And after helping them, I will ask them if they need any additional help. And then you're right, building on that close bonding, then it's easier for me to help them with next digital innovation, which ultimately benefits students' experience.
Yeah, and presumably after that first conversation, they then trust that you're not somebody who's just giving them something else that they have to do, but actually you're going to help them to do their job in a way that's more fun and more rewarding. Is that how that goes?
Yeah, and making it more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're not trying to sort of push an agenda in that sense. You're there trying to help them make their jobs more doable, which I guess is why you've been successful.
Thank you.
All right, we'll leave it there. Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I just think it's incredibly important to remember that, all the strategies at any university and all the money and all of the rest of it, and you need people like Johnny who are there, building those relationships and building up the trust with the people that are doing the work. Otherwise, none of it happens, which is, again, why I think it's a great award. Okay, we're going to move on to the highly commended for Teams, which is Arden University. Let's watch their video.
We are the digital learning team at Arden University, and we specialise in the design, development and enhancement of fully online and blended programs. We take an accessible, values-driven approach that's fully aligned with our institution's digital-first, inclusive ethos. As well as developing a rapid, high-quality and fully digitised process for module design, we make extensive use of multimedia, including animations such as in this video. Articulate storyline, including gamification and H5P. And Adobe Creative Suite, such as for making infographics and other images. Meanwhile, our new maintenance process is supported by a bespoke Office 365 ticketing solution, interactive guidance and videos. We work closely with our colleagues in schools and across the Faculty of Learning and Teaching, giving academic detailed individual feedback and technical expertise throughout module development, review and enhancement. We provide in-house expertise in video production and graphic design. Our learning designers build all our modules in Articulate Rise to ensure quality, accessibility and consistency across diverse academic disciplines including business, healthcare, computing, psychology and law. We advise subject matter experts on digital pedagogy, enabling them to design for digital-first delivery while creating opportunities to add value in our face-to-face study centres. We understand that many of our students are busy with work and caring responsibilities, are the first in their families to enter higher education, or are returning to study after a long break. We understand this. Many of us are or were online learners ourselves. We are a hybrid team working mostly from home, so we live and breathe digital-first collaboration, quality assurance, and teamwork. This enables us to deliver highly flexible digital learning experiences that can broaden access to education and transform lives.
Lovely, thank you. Come on up. Now there's 3 of you and 2 microphones, so you know you're just going to have to fight. Yeah.
Ooh, share. Don't worry.
Tell me a little bit about Arden, because I don't. Is it distributed? You're distributed? Are the students distributed? How's it work?
Yeah. So I mean, when I was asked to come onto the stage last night, I said, "I'm sure you're all thinking Arden who?" I mean, we are a relatively new institution. Arden only gained university status in 2015, only gained indefinite degree awarding powers in 2021. So it is a new institution, and it's grown at a rapid rate where we were at about 5,000 students 5 years ago. We're now at 23,000.
And what? Say that again?
We've gone from 5,000 to 23,000 students in about 4 or 5 years.
So I'm guessing, given the structure of that and those numbers, the work you do is absolutely, look at this, is absolutely fundamental to making Arden work, right? This is not...
Yeah, this is not an adjunct. So every student that signs up for one of our programs has gets the same set of materials, whether they are studying via distance learning or via a study centre. So, and we have a very particular group of students who join Arden because of the flexibility. So something like 60% of our students are from the most deprived areas of the UK, less than 20% are from families that have got experience of higher education. So we have to really think about that in how we design what we provide. And we really, I think, go further than I've seen in a lot of institutions in terms of creating that material and creating those experiences for students, which Lee and Christina can probably tell you more about than me.
Tell me more about that.
We've developed quite a unique process, and the process entails collaboration with our subject matter experts and academics, and get them onboarded in a way that they understand the digital-first ethos, and they understand how to actually write academic materials that would then become digitally friendly and accessible online. And obviously it is something we personally believe that if we want to provide an accessible learning environment for our students, we need to ensure that accessibility is there for our subject matter experts as well. Because just as our students and our staff, you know, some of them are at the study centres, some of them work from home, all around Europe, and the way in which we deliver our module development process and how we train our SMEs is is probably one of the biggest strengths that we have. And I'll pass it on to Lee just to talk a little bit more about accessibility and why it is
absolutely.
so important to us. Thank you.
Yeah, so I suppose, really deep then, I didn't expect it to be that. I suppose from our point of view, we do a lot of modules. That's probably an important thing to get across, in excess of 150 in the last year. So as you can imagine, trying to embed accessibility on and getting everyone on board. So that's like a work in progress, but what we want to do is make that embedded from the start, so it's the norm and it's not an extra afterwards. So we're really working really hard. There's Alice who's sitting in the audience up there who works really hard on
Alice.
that, and we're really trying to embed that from the start. But yeah, I think probably another thing, the ethos of the team, everyone has got a goal where they really want to make it work, and the teams, we have to work across a number of different teams in this process, and I think being remote and it all being online, it's quite difficult to get that to work really, but we've made it work, and it feels like you feel like you're in the room with the people all the time, you know what I mean? And you're not, you're sitting at home looking at people on a screen and talking in meetings, but we've made it work, and really it's like a kind of a family type environment, I suppose. We're all really close and work really well together across the teams.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, because I think sometimes people are a little bit sceptical about that aspect of being fully remote. Although it must have been nice to come together and party last night, because I guess you're not often in the same room together, is that?
Not very often, no. And we're all, as you saw, how we're all dispersed around the UK and Europe as well. We've got...
Yeah, so how many people are in the team?
So we are 33 now. It's doubled in size in the last 12 months.
But 150 modules?
150 modules, yeah, 18 program launches in the last 12 months.
I would just, how do you deal with that kind of constant scaling up, with the constant, like, there's just a lot of it?
There's a lot of it, yeah. And I've been in post for 16 months now, and everything I saw when I came in was everything you saw was a function of volume. So we've had to work really hard to work with our academics to help them understand that there's a process that should take this number of hours in order to deliver the type of experience that we want for our students. Therefore, we have to think very carefully about how we manage our portfolio, our academic portfolio as an institution, so that we can use our resources in a way that's strategic and in a way that protects the quality of the student experience all the way through. And as Lee and Christina were saying, we're working incredibly hard to make sure that accessibility is baked in across everything that we do. And it would be easy in a situation like that, where you have a lot of stuff to do, for that to become an afterthought, or for that to not be given the prominence it deserves. But that's the approach that we have taken, is that it's digital first and it's accessible first from the outset.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see from the video that the quality of the work is great, and as you say, you're not letting things drop just because there's a lot going on. I think because a lot of people will work across very similar areas and similar teams in this room, sort of interested in how you make that work sustainable for yourselves.
Yeah, who wants to take that one, Elise?
Well, so first of all, I think the big shout out to our team members, because we've got very talented learning designers, very talented multimedia people, product development coordinators who actually, make it all happen in terms of collaborating with SMEs, getting those deadlines pushed, and obviously our academics as well, because we have people from both professional and academic background, which also makes the programs quite interesting and unique. And of course there are challenges. I wouldn't lie and say no, we didn't work Saturdays and Sundays. We did, but we also get but
turned into a team meeting.
Okay, we're not overworked, but we do get adequate support. So in terms of when we can see that the volume is growing, so we get straight away resource to recruit people. We get the resource from agencies to bridge the gaps and make sure that it's manageable. And I know to some people it's probably a little bit sort of, oh wow, so many programs, but the university grows, and if there is a demand, then there should be a supply.
I think most of us working in education institutions have experienced the same sort of growth and how you deal with it, which is why it's interesting just how quickly you've had to grow, whilst also being across such a lot of stuff. Lee, last question. What's the toughest part of all that then? What's the trickiest bit, in your opinion?
The things that you want to do, which, like you just said, it's really busy, and you've got a lot of, everybody wants to really do, let's try that next block and things, but you can't always implement that straight away, and you have to kind of build up to it and embed it into a block in the future. I know that's the better way to do, but sometimes you really like, we can do that for there, and you just always, you haven't got the time or sometimes the resources. But the good thing is that, like, we've got good management there, and they listen to you, and they make changes quite soon. You know, I mean, I've worked in places where you wait years and nothing happens, and then at Arden, fair enough, you might have to wait a couple of months or so on while we're building up to it, but the changes come quite soon.
So you can kind of, sort of fold in those ambitions as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like you'd like to say a last word about it. Is that right?
Not really. I mean, I think I think Lee's covered it really well there. I think we work well as a team because because we've chosen to work remotely. You know, some teams.
Yeah.
They work remotely under duress, but I think this is we've been in the fortunate position, and I suppose it's worth saying that we are a private university. Some people turn their noses up slightly at that, but that gives us the luxury of, you know, when we need to put our foot on the gas to expand the team, we're able to do that in a way that's relatively quick. But it doesn't happen on its own either, and it happens we've had great support across our faculty and across the institution in terms of, you know, managing that volume and making sure that at the heart of it, it's sustainable and it's high quality.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, guys. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think a lot of us that work in traditional universities, if I could put it that way, would like to be operating in the same way that you are. So I think that probably says something about why you've got that award. Okay, we're going to move on.
City's digital education team is a highly collaborative team working with staff and students on a range of strategic initiatives alongside operational activities to provide an excellent educational experience.
The Digital Accessibility Project has championed an accessibility-first approach. Our caption correction service ensures accurate captions for students, saves time while meeting legislation, and our Moodle materials accessibility score jumped from 57% to 75% in 2021.
We launched the Student Digital Skills team in response to students' requests for better digital support. We raise awareness of digital skills in many ways, and our rollout of LinkedIn Learning has been a resounding success, with over 5,700 students already signed up.
In June 2023, we launched our new digital learning design service. This offers a collaborative, flexible process for designing, developing and delivering blended and online learning activities. Projects included redesigning engineering and nursing programs and supporting the STEM Digital Academy's MSc in Computer Science.
In our multimedia department, we have installed 2 DIY TV studios. These have encouraged academics to create high-quality educational videos and innovative digital resources.
The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated our research into learning analytics, leading to rapid implementation. Our collaboration with student welfare officers and the Student Success and Inclusion team ensured timely data for identifying at-risk students and offering support.
We've introduced hybrid teaching facilities into 35 spaces, creating a seamless on-campus and online learning experience.
It has been a busy couple of years for us, and we are delighted to share our achievements with you.
Very good. Come on up. Now, there's an interesting thing here, which is that I didn't spot that that Julie was involved in 2 awards, you see, but it kind of makes sense. It was a very kind of open and transparent kind of shortlisting and judging process. So I think the fact that you got, because we'll come on to that, you got the leadership award, but the team got the team award. It sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Anyway, so I think Dom, I'm going to talk to you first, because I'm going to talk to you later anyway. Tell us a little bit about City, because it's quite a complicated place, right? And I'd say the reason that you've won the award is because you're sort of, to my mind, you're just doing all the things.
It does feel a little bit like doing all the things, yeah, definitely. And
I suppose, yeah, we're a traditional campus-based university in the heart of London. You know, we've got 150 years background, something like that. And my comment last night on the stage, I'll see if I remember it, was it's been a journey, but we don't look back in anger. Something
Right.
like that.
So you've had tough times.
So we've had tough times.
Yeah.
We've all had the pandemic
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff
Yeah.
as well. But, you know, we've gone through things like, you know, when I joined, we'd just been through this centralisation process.
Okay.
Everybody got chucked into the middle and all this kind of stuff. And it was a team that was full of promise.
Okay.
But that was quite hard to deliver.
Yeah. So you've had to build a kind of team culture and confidence and...
Well, the thing that made a difference was having the person who was doing a PhD in how to organise TEL teams.
Okay. That's handy.
Come in and be the boss.
Right. So research works, right? Okay.
And then go, this is how we should do it. Are you all on board with this?
Yeah.
And then we were all empowered to go out and be ourselves and do our different things in the different places. And it takes time for this to filter through.
Mm-hmm.
But this has meant that we can now get to this stage of activity and I think achievement.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And Julie, how has the institution responded to the development of your team? How's that journey been? Again, you're amongst friends, you know.
I think, you know, with a lot of people in digital education roles, you know, there's always questions of what is it you do?
Yeah.
And then suddenly the pandemic came and everyone was like, do we have digital education specialists? And we're like, hello.
Yeah.
We even changed our name midway through the pandemic just in case someone thought, we don't have anyone doing digital education. So we were the EdTech team.
Right.
And so we
Yeah.
changed just in
Yeah.
case, you know. But yeah, they've been very supportive and, you know, they've supported all the work we've done around sort of digital accessibility, digital literacies. They've been behind us. And I think one of the sort of things and strengths of the team is being able to reach out to other people across the institution and identify those key collaboration points. So our accessibility team have been working really closely with the academic skills team who are in our directorate, but also people in student health and wellbeing. We're linking up across various different things, looking at AI and neurodiversity, working with careers and employability to support their graduate attributes with digital literacies. So it's about how you connect up with the institution and stepping out of your silo and encouraging others to step out of theirs.
And I'd add to that, having done the groundwork first enables that.
And yeah, absolutely, because you can't put together a video like that with all those lovely things in it unless you've done all of that work. What would you say has been the trickiest part of that journey to get to where you are now? You can each have a go at that question.
Do you want to have a go at that one first?
I think sometimes it's just articulating everything that you do. And for digital education teams, it's stepping beyond that. You're the Moodle people, aren't you?
Yeah,
And it's
okay.
like, we are, but we also do all of this as well. So actually, you know, we'll be using that showcase video to, you know, promote what we do within our own institution as well. Because I think, you know, people see different parts of you. And so some people will say, oh, you do learning analytics. It's like, we do, but we also do all of this as well. So, yeah, I think that's the tricky bit, is communicating who you are and what you do, especially when you've got quite a wide remit.
Okay.
That makes it quite difficult for staff to get.
Yeah.
You know, they may experience our work, our support, our services through a variety of different ways. They may come and use our multimedia facilities. They may have somebody in the course office talks to them about learning analytics. They have somebody on a committee talking about accessibility or whatever, and they go, you're all of these things?
Yeah.
Where do I start?
Yeah.
Which is my role, which is being the bridge between the two of them.
Yeah.
And talking to, helping them to understand and interpret what we do and what they do so that we understand it as well.
Yeah. And you've clearly now got this quite powerful sense of identity and you're reasonably well understood across the university and you've made those connections and you built up those relationships, so you're in a strong position to do all the things that are in the video, which is a huge achievement because it's a tricky thing to do even post-COVID, I'd say. Just quickly, because my timing's terrible here. This has been a bit of a theme throughout the conference. Have there been any downsides to the post-COVID thing, or do you think it's all been pretty positive for you guys in terms of people understanding what you do and they're interested in sort of engaging with you?
I think for me the biggest downside has been this rush back to campus and everyone going, well, we've done e-learning.
We did that.
We know how to do that
Yeah.
now, but on campus is where it's at. And there's pressure on estates across all institutions with that, rushing back to campus. But we have seen the pockets of people going, actually, hybrid works for us, and this is a good way to reach out to wider audiences. So as noted in the video, we've kitted out hybrid spaces, and that is increasing since the video was made. We've got another few spaces, and we've got programs who want to be hybrid.
Yeah.
So there are still pockets, but it's that big rush back to right. We're on campus now. How can we support students here?
One of the difficulties you have is balancing the desire to go back to 2019 as the gold standard, with the sudden realization that, you can do all the things. And having to do both.
No, I agree. I think it's
in the same estate.
Doing all the things all the time, everywhere, all at once, sort of a scenario that we're in. Thanks, guys. Brilliant.
About that one.
Yeah. Okay, next up. You just got. Oh, you're back.
We're the co-chairs of the Copyright and Online Learning Special Interest Group, the CoolSIG, coolest of all SIGs. Absolutely. And we started in November 2020. We now have over 140 members.
We run the website copyrightliteracy.org, which is where we share lots of educational resources and topical news stories about copyright.
And it's also the place where we share our playful resources, open education resources like Copyright the Card Game and the Publishing Trap, our conference, IcePops, the International Copyright Literacy Event, with playful opportunities for practitioners and scholars, and our podcast, Copyright Pop.
So part of our mission is to make copyright as accessible as possible, but also playful and fun. So we wrote the book Copyright and E-Learning, a guide for practitioners, which was published in 2016. And during the COVID pandemic, we wanted to share some of the knowledge from this book openly with people in our community.
We started running webinars in conjunction with ALT in March 2020. An initial one that we just thought that would be a good idea to do turned into a whole series, and now we've got over 60 of them. Here's a selection of some of the amazing guests we've had on the webinars, people from all over the world, all different backgrounds, all of whom have something to tell us about copyright and online learning. And here's just an indication of the organisations and groups that were represented by those brilliant guests.
A really important project we worked on during the pandemic with Bart Maletti from Learning on Screen was the Code of Fair Practice for Film Educators, the first of its kind in the UK, and it's really helped the film education community understand how to interpret copyright exceptions and how to teach online.
So that's a very brief snapshot of all the things we've been up to. We're, as we said, delighted to be recognised by ALT, but we also want to have a huge thanks to the whole community that make this happen. We're just the people that like sitting on a sofa and waffling on about copyright.
So thanks very much, and we look forward to celebrating with you all. Bye.
Bye.
So I feel like, you're the sectors, you put a friendly face on a complex and scary territory. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. We've tried to make it something that's welcoming, that's not a stern face in front of a grey background going, you need to think about these bullet points. Yeah.
And because you've helped me with this kind of stuff as well at my institution, and I think one of the interesting things is that I think is little understood is you talk about a kind of risk-based approach to this. Do you want to just talk about that for a second? Because I think that's really interesting, because most people imagine you're either wrong or you're right on this.
Yeah, the law, people think about the law as a set of rules, and that there is a set of right, wrong, do's and don'ts. And to a certain extent that's true. But the thing about copyright law is it's a balance, and it's interpretations, and it's like, well, it depends on how much of something you're doing and the context. So it's in order to sort of weigh up those things, you need to have a risk-based approach, which means you might end up doing something that breaks the law. But if you don't take a risk, then you will do bad teaching, I guess.
Yeah, it's an important balance because otherwise, two things that can happen is that I guess people just won't do the thing they need to do for good teaching, or they'll do the thing and they'll just not tell anybody about it because they're too frightened about. So
absolutely,
I think through your work, people are more likely to talk about what they actually do in teaching, and then you can celebrate that and support them.
Totally, because I think the biggest barrier is actually that people are quite scared that they're getting it wrong all the time, so they hide what they're doing and they won't go and ask somebody a question for fear that you're going to tell me I can't do this. The other thing I wanted to say really was, I mean, the law changed in 2014 to, you know, bring in new copyright exceptions, none of which have ended up with anyone being in court in the way they've interpreted them. And the kind of key one, illustration for instruction, was broadened for digital, you know, teaching, and that's what we wanted to get across.
This is your message: is crack on.
Yeah.
You probably won't end up in court.
I think, I mean, it is about striking a balance, isn't it? You know, because you do have the people that throw caution to the wind, never think about copyright, come to you at the last minute when I've just put a load of, you know, music in this video.
Copied and pasted a ton of stuff.
Yeah. But then the other side of that, and actually what we see much more of, is the people being very nervous and very fearful, and then the poor copyright officer, which is usually one person in an institution, being in this position where it's like, you know, they just get all the kind of really difficult questions.
Absolutely, yeah.
And feel alone.
Yeah.
And that's what we've always wanted to do, is make those people realise they're not alone, and that as a community we can work on this together, and there's a lot more we can do.
Yeah. That person in my institution came to me a few years ago and said, you need to tell me everything that's in Moodle because I need to check it. And I was like, I don't know what, I haven't got the faintest idea what's in there. Anyway, coming back to the kind of putting a friendly face on things, just talk about the cool SIG and you know, all the webinars you do, because I think that's the other strength of your work, is that you're not just like writing PDFs and throwing them at the world.
No.
You're trying to facilitate a conversation. So tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, we've been, we were lucky enough to take over management of a GIST mail list called List CopySeek. So there was already an existing community, over 600 members, raising questions around predominantly copyright in an online learning context. But when the pandemic happened, we'd already done some work with ALT. We'd already done a webinar around open practice because we're strong open practitioners. And it just seemed obvious that when the crisis point came, here was an opportunity to turn something that was predominantly listserv discussions into a, can we get together and let's just not panic. And the questions that we're getting, let's try to just think about it logically, but also check in on each other. And that's just continued. It means that now the community does come together. There's an expectation. We do it every month. We've got, you know, still people turn up, so they must like it and they get something. It's kind of like a team meeting for every person that has responsibility for copyright across the UK and then some overseas as well. So it's, yeah.
And ALT recognising that, you know, it was worthy of being a special interest group. I think it's a really good opportunity to bring together the learning technology community, the library community, the copyright specialists. You know, a lot of those people don't always get together and talk about stuff. And I think that's where all these kind of myths about copyright end up, you know, being generated, because, you know, there's lots of things whispered and,
yeah,
you know,
and people tend to make up the worst possible version. If
absolutely. Yeah. So we've got a webinar, just a little plug on Friday, as in tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah,
11
a.m. about copyright and artificial intelligence, the topic everyone's talking about.
Are they?
In our world.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks, guys. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and last but not least, and probably wandering at least a couple of minutes into lunchtime, I do apologise, we have our outright winner for leadership, Julie. Again.
I'm Julie Vose, Head of Digital Education and Deputy Director of Learning Enhancement and Development at City University of London. I've worked in the learning technology sector for 20 years and have been an active leader in all of my roles. Since starting at City, I have led successful projects on digital accessibility and digital literacies, and have been a driving force on projects related to lecture capture, hybrid learning, learning analytics, and learning design. As a result of my leadership, these initiatives have now matured and are moving to business as usual, expanding the remit of my team and adding value to the staff and student experience. Beyond these initiatives, the real value of my leadership is how I have empowered, supported and developed others, both within City and beyond.
I really believe Julie deserves to win the ALT Leadership Award. She has a unique ability to create space for everyone in the team to grow, be themselves and be innovative. Whenever I come up with an idea for something I want to try, she always finds a way to make it happen. She's able to see things from everyone's perspective, and that's what makes her a supportive and inclusive leader.
Already an expert in her field, Julie brings some rare qualities in her leadership. She listens, she learns, and she empowers. As a senior manager, she has given me the agency to become the kind of manager that I wanted to be, and the freedom to lead my team in the way that I want to.
Finally, I am very active in the sector, leading a range of activities, such as the M25 Learning Technology Group and the recent UCISA Technology Enhanced Learning Surveys. I am a senior CMALT holder and assessor, and align my leadership with the CMALT principles and the framework for ethical learning technology by being actively inclusive and collaborative, whilst taking a professional approach and acting with integrity. I am delighted to be recognised for this award. Thank you.
Right, so, hello again. Obviously we know what a lot of your leadership has led to in terms of the work, because we've seen what your team does. So I just wanted to ask you, I didn't know about the PhD thing, I hadn't spotted that. I wanted to ask you about your leadership style and, what's your philosophy? That sounds too fancy. I mean, how do you go about doing the leadery thing? How about that for a question?
I think for me, it's about trusting people, and it's surprising actually how many, people say to me, you trust me to do this, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? You're qualified to do the job, so yeah, it's trusting people, enabling collaboration, making connections, but also being aware of who people are as individuals, understanding their situation, and supporting them in the best way that you can.
And your research, how's that informed how you operate on a day-to-day basis? Has it or not?
I think, my research was, not necessarily the actual design of a TEL team, but looking at, how TEL teams are structured within an organisation and thinking of the organisational culture and some of the issues you might come up with. So thinking about those wider relationships with other teams, like we work very closely with IT, are there improvements we can make to that relationship or other relationships? And I think that's come through the team, as I said earlier. It's about building those collaborations, looking at who your key stakeholders are and going, we need to be doing more with them because actually our work overlaps and we don't want to be working in these silos.
Okay, and I think one thing that anybody who's in a kind of leadership position at an educational institution is always interested to know about is what approach do you take to convincing your institution to support you in various projects, ideas, funding? What's your technique for that?
I think evidence-based. So,
Okay.
My role on the UCISA Technology Enhanced Learning Surveys is really useful because when people go, are we behind? You go, well, actually, here's the sector research that says, where we are and we're ahead in this bit. We could probably do with improvements in this area. But, using data and collaborating with the community. I talk to the members of the M25 committee, people from Heads of E-Learning Forum, the community help me, and I return that favour by saying this is what is going on elsewhere, and just knowing what others are doing, I think, can help convince your academics
That it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just as a last question, what's next on your agenda for things to achieve in terms of in the university? I mean, what area are you looking at that you think, right, we're going to have a real go at this next? Or is that giving the game away?
I don't know, good question. I'm leading our generative AI task and finish group, so I think
Okay,
that's going to take up a lot of time.
That's probably a good answer, actually. And how many people are in the team?
So there's about 30 of us.
Okay.
And we cover a range of different areas. So.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, that concludes our showcase. Thank you again to all of our award winners. Thank you for submitting, an application for the awards and for coming along and everybody's been really up for it, really engaging. The videos are great. We really appreciate it. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to kind of share those stories that are kind of behind the winning, if you like. And thank you to everybody online as well.